Some mysteries don't get solved, they just get older. February 1959. Search crews climb through waist-deep snow, expecting to rescue 9 hikers. Instead, they find a tent ripped open from the inside. The boots are still there. The people aren't. We've photographed black holes, decoded the human genome, and sent spacecraft beyond the edge of the solar system. Yet, some of the simplest questions remain unanswered. Scattered across the last century are a handful of cases where the evidence is real, the investigation was serious, and the explanation never quite arrived. Today, we're looking at 10 of them. Not campfire stories, documented events, official case files, and recorded data that researchers still argue about. Some have partial explanations. A few have none at all. By the end, you'll understand why certain files never get closed. They just get reopened by the next generation of scientists. Back to that mountainside. The 9 hikers were led by a 23-year-old engineering student named Igor Dyatlov, and they were experienced, prepared, not reckless. When search teams finally reached the camp, they found more than an abandoned tent. The bodies were scattered across the slope below it, some barely dressed for the freezing conditions. A few had fractures consistent with immense blunt force trauma, the kind investigators compared to a car crash, but without any external wounds to explain it. Soviet authorities closed the case, citing an unknown compelling force, and sealed the files for decades. Since then, researchers have proposed avalanches, infrasound-induced panic, and even military testing in the area. In 2019, Russian prosecutors reopened the case and leaned toward a slab avalanche theory, which fits some of the injuries but still struggles to explain why 9 people would flee a warm tent into sub-zero air without their boots. No single explanation accounts for every piece of evidence, which is why the case still attracts new investigations decades later. Sound, it turns out, can be just as strange as a mountainside. In 1977, an antenna in Ohio picked up a burst of radio signal so unusual that the astronomer reviewing the printout circled it and wrote a single word in the margin. Wow. The signal was strong, narrowband, and matched almost exactly what scientists had predicted an artificial extraterrestrial transmission might look like. It lasted 72 seconds and was never detected again, despite repeated searches of that exact patch of sky. Proposed explanations range from a passing comet's hydrogen cloud to a reflected terrestrial signal, but neither fully accounts for its characteristics. Nobody claims it was a message, but nobody has definitively proven what it actually was either. Some signals come from space and stay unexplained. Others come from centuries ago, written in a language nobody has ever read. The Voynich Manuscript, currently held at Yale University, is a 240-page book filled with detailed illustrations of plants that don't match any known species, alongside star charts and unidentified bathing figures, all written in a script that has never been translated. Carbon dating places the vellum in the early 1400s. Cryptographers, linguists, and even modern AI language models have all attempted to crack it. Some argue it's an elaborate hoax, designed to fool a wealthy buyer centuries ago. Others argue the statistical patterns in the text are too consistent to be gibberish, resembling real linguistic structure. Nobody has produced a translation the wider academic community accepts as genuine. Some mysteries live on a page. Others drift through open doorways and vanish before anyone can explain them. Ball lightning has been reported for centuries, glowing spheres of light, sometimes the size of a grapefruit. Witnesses describe watching these orbs drift silently through open doorways before disappearing, as if they were never there. Pilots have reported it inside cockpits. Farmers have described it rolling across fields. For a long time, scientists dismissed it as folklore or misperception, until 2012, when Chinese researchers accidentally captured spectral data of a ball lightning event during a thunderstorm, confirming it as a real, physical phenomenon. What they still can't agree on is the mechanism, whether it's ionized soil vapor, a microwave-trapped plasma, or something else entirely. The event is real. The physics behind it is still being debated in journals today. Ships, too, have their own unexplained chapters. In 1872, the Mary Celeste was found adrift in the Atlantic, fully seaworthy, with cargo and provisions intact, but with not a single crew member on board. No signs of struggle. No distress signal. The lifeboat was gone, suggesting the crew left voluntarily. But why they abandoned a stable, undamaged ship in open water has never been confirmed. Investigators at the time suspected foul play, but no evidence ever supported it. Modern theory suggests the crew may have misread a minor issue as a serious threat and abandoned ship in a panic, but that remains an educated guess rather than a confirmed answer. Not every mystery involves an empty ship or an empty sky. Some are far more personal and far harder to record. Since the 1990s, residents in Taos, New Mexico have reported a persistent, low-frequency hum, audible mostly at night, heard by only a small percentage of the population. Sensitive equipment brought in by researchers has struggled to consistently detect the sound at all, even when residents standing nearby insist they can hear it clearly. Similar reports have surfaced in Bristol, England, and Windsor, Ontario, each with its own name and its own baffled research team. Some scientists suspect a form of low-frequency industrial noise. Others point to tinnitus or heightened auditory sensitivity in certain individuals. No consistent source has ever been isolated across all three locations, which means the hum remains one of the few mysteries where the disagreement isn't about the explanation. It's about whether there's a single phenomenon to explain at all. Even rarer, and considerably darker, are cases of apparent spontaneous human combustion, a phenomenon documented in isolated incidents since the 1800s, where a body is found almost entirely incinerated, while nearby furniture remains largely untouched. In 2010, an Irish coroner ruled the death of an elderly man in County Galway as spontaneous combustion, after investigators found no accelerant, no obvious ignition source, and damage inconsistent with a typical house fire. Most fire scientists point to what's called the wick effect, where clothing acts like a candle wick, allowing body fat to slowly fuel a low, contained flame over hours. That theory explains many of the recorded cases well. It doesn't fully explain the small number where witnesses reported flames appearing suddenly, with no apparent external source at all. Fire leaves evidence, even when it's mysterious. The ocean, it turns out, can hide things just as well. In 1997, hydrophones designed to detect Soviet submarines picked up an extremely loud, ultra-low frequency sound in the Pacific Ocean. One loud enough to be detected by sensors over 3,000 miles apart. When analysts replayed the recording, the sound didn't resemble a submarine, an earthquake, or any familiar marine noise. They gave it a simple nickname, the Bloop. For years, it fueled speculation about undiscovered ocean life. In 2005, NOAA researchers matched its signature to the sound of large ice quakes, ice fracturing and shifting near Antarctica. That explanation is now widely accepted, but it took nearly a decade of hydrophone data and cross-referencing before anyone could rule out the more unsettling possibilities. Some mysteries come from underwater, others come from the sky, with force instead of sound. In 1908, a massive explosion flattened roughly 800 square miles of forest in a remote part of Siberia near the Tunguska River. Witnesses over 60 miles away described a fireball crossing the sky, followed by a shockwave that knocked people off their feet. No crater was ever found. The leading explanation is an airburst from a meteor or comet fragment that exploded in the atmosphere before impact, and evidence collected from the site does support that. Yet researchers have never recovered the kind of large impact fragments many people expect from such a massive explosion, leaving room for continued debate over exactly what exploded above Siberia. And then there's the region that gets blamed for almost everything unexplained at sea, the Bermuda Triangle. It's worth being direct here. Most maritime researchers argue the area doesn't statistically have more disappearances than any other heavily trafficked stretch of ocean, once you account for storm patterns, shipping volume, and reporting bias. Insurance companies like Lloyd's of London don't charge higher premiums for ships passing through it. That said, a handful of individual disappearances in the region, including Flight 19 in 1945, still lack a fully confirmed explanation. Not because the area is uniquely mysterious, but because search records from that era were often incomplete. The triangle isn't quite the mystery pop culture built it into, but a few of the cases inside it remain genuinely unresolved. Taken together, these 10 cases share less in common than you'd expect. Some are solved, mostly, and only linger because a small percentage of the evidence resists tidy explanation. Others remain wide open, waiting for a piece of data nobody has found yet. What connects them isn't the supernatural. It's the reminder that even now, with satellites, sensors, and global research networks, there are still gaps between what happened and what we can prove. So, which of these 10 still doesn't sit right with you? Tell us in the comments which one you'd want investigated further. And if you want to keep digging into the mysteries that never quite got closed, subscribe, because there are more files waiting to be reopened.